So Ubisoft Forward has concluded, guys, and we got a lot of information about some of these new titles that are coming out, or upcoming titles coming out from none other than Ubisoft. And what I'm really excited about is, of course, one of the games that I've been looking forward to for a while now is Assassin's Creed Valhalla. This is one of my favorite franchises out there, guys. I've been very critical, however, of the past couple of entries in the franchise. And Valhalla, even though it seems like it could be some of the same as what we've had in the past couple of entries in this franchise, there definitely seems to be some differences. Well, some developers, as well as just, reviewers, as well as just, personalities within, YouTube, as well as Twitch and such, got first hands-on experience with the game. And so what I wanted to go ahead and do is talk about everything that we know at this point in time, guys, about Assassin's Creed Valhalla following Ubisoft Forward. So let's get into it. So in an article, guys, that was written by Wes Fenlon of PC Gamer, our first preview shows promise. Assassin's Creed Valhalla wants to be The Witcher 3, but with deeper combat and the occasional climb. I almost dropped my controller in a panic when a nun stopped praying amid a field of corpses, pulled out an axe and charged at me. A couple of hours into my demo, Assassin's Creed Valhalla had finally surprised me. It was a short, vicious fight with the nun deciding my show of strength meant I didn't need killing after all. After a short cutscene, I learned this encounter was a world event, shorter and simpler than a side quest, but also more fun. Because I had no idea it was coming. Completing world events is one way Assassin's Creed Valhalla rewards you skill points to level up your Viking assassin, Eivor, alongside story missions and side quests. As Ubisoft continues to turn Assassin's Creed into an RPG series, more focus on story and character building and thoughtful narrative choices, it needs many more moments like that one. Now, what I'm going to say, guys, and I've talked about this many times on the YouTube channel, that Assassin's Creed kind of has gone away from what made the series so great in the first place, that being the stealth over action, and they've kind of replaced that with action over stealth, and, or having like stealth elements to it, but more action. And I'm not saying that it's a terrible thing, but it's just felt that it's been more of a, something that they kind of got away from, that being Ubisoft with Assassin's Creed. I'm hoping that they kind of balance it out more in this game, that being Valhalla. But I love some of the things that they're adding here to this game. 3 hours with Valhalla was barely enough to get a feel for this new Assassin's Creed. I can tell it's a giant open world with plenty of the tropes you'd expect from the genre. There are points of interest on your map, vantage points to climb, completion bars to fill up by collecting treasure and finding secrets, or deposits to break open for materials, bits of loot from enemies you can use to upgrade your weapons. And the upgrades and such, from what I've seen, guys, look very expansive. I mean, they have a lot of, skill trees almost, that looks like there is so much stuff that you can like upgrade and such, that your guy is the ultimate, fighting machine. I didn't get to see one of the things I'm most curious about in Valhalla, which is the settlement you'll return to over the course of the game, upgrading with the riches acquired through conquest. I'm a sucker for a base building minigame, and I also love the idea of having my own squad of Vikings that I can call on to raid towns across England. Finding new loot to make incremental upgrades to my own character bores me after a while, but upgrading my followers and leading them into battle, that I can get into. Now, like I said, guys, I think that, from a graphical standpoint, what we've seen so far, now from the trailers at least, the graphics are incredible. They look like they're going to be so good on, like on the next-gen consoles. However, the gameplay is a little bit different. Now, it doesn't look quite as good as it does, obviously, from the trailers, but there looks like there's a, obviously the game's not done yet, so we got to kind of wait till the game comes out, but there is a definite, you can tell that it looks like they're trying to take some things out of The Witcher, and The Witcher 3 in particular, which I certainly don't think is a bad thing. This does feel like it has its own flavor on things, which I like a lot, and it looks like hopefully there's a good amount of stuff to do within this open world. And for what we've seen so far about the map, guys, the map looks relatively large, and only a portion of it was able to be accessible to these, streamers and content creators and reviewers out there for Assassin's Creed as far as the demo is concerned. So that gets me pretty excited. The bits of Valhalla I spent most of my time with made it plain Ubisoft has taken a lot of inspiration from The Witcher 3, building decisions into the main story quests that help you define what kind of character Eivor is. Before I lead my troops into battle, do I fire them up with promises of vengeance or tell them we fight for ourselves? If I show another Viking mercy after defeating him in a one-on-one boss fight, how will that come into play later? I only played a couple of story missions, but I loved female Eivor's voice acting and the little bits of the larger story I was able to pick up on. This isn't going to simply be a tale of the invading Vikings versus Saxons, because I rescued a Saxon king who is marrying another Viking. So, with that, where Valhalla falls short of The Witcher, at least from the limited bit I played, is in its side quests. I only ran into a couple, but they were very short. In one, I helped a kid find a cat. In another, I helped a kid recover a horse from the other side of a river. They were 2-minute diversions, not the rich, unpredictable quests that rooted Geralt in his world so effectively. So, look, what I will say about that is this. The side quests, I do hope that they're a little bit more in-depth for sure. One thing that I will say, guys, that really bothered me about Origins as well as Odyssey in the Assassin's Creed universe, of course, the past couple of entries here, was that you were forced to do side quests in order to move forward with the main story, similar to that of Far Cry 5, which really bothered me. I like going at, side quests at my own pace. So that's the only thing that I'm hoping they change here, that these are, side quests, but you don't have to do them. I understand the concept. They want you to play the entire game in its totality, but I like to be able to kind of go at the story and such at my own pace, because if you're really getting into the story and then you're forced to do side quests, it takes you out of that main story to do side quests. Whereas I want to just kind of do the whole story sometimes, do side quests along the way, and then after I beat the game, you go through it again, and then you can do all the side quests and such. So that is something that I really hope that they end up doing here. Valhalla retains classic Assassin's Creed's climbing and stealth, but I found myself thrust into combat or picking off enemies with a bow far more than going in for assassinations. The stealth feels like a holdover from a different game, but Valhalla's combat having more stuff in it than Origins or Odyssey doesn't necessarily make it more engaging over the long term either. I wrote a separate article about Valhalla's combat design and how its stealth fits in. And if Valhalla's story is great and its side quests are better than the ones I encountered, then even a decent combat system will be good enough. The Witcher 3's combat was easily its weakest element after all. I'd gladly put up with an evolution of Odyssey if this giant open world lives up to its potential as a vessel for great storytelling. With a few months to go, Valhalla clearly needs to have some polish, which I agree to. From what I saw, guys, definitely needs some polish, and I'm sure it will. This game's not coming out until later this year, and we'll just kind of have to wait and see. I'm really hoping that we still are, there's a lot of stealth elements to this game. I hope they just balance it out, right? I just felt that Odyssey and Origins went in this direction of just straight up action with rarely ever stealth elements to them, which is what made Assassin's Creed in the past so great and what has really built this fan base. I'm just hoping that they kind of go ahead and they bring it back to that. And we even saw in that reveal in the trailer that we got, it even put on the screen stealth. So there's obviously an emphasis on stealth, which is very exciting. Combat is responsive, but AI characters tend to move with the same old stilted animations, which stand out more and more as games become more detailed. And though the environment looks beautiful, nothing in Valhalla really blew me away. From my memory, it looks comparable to Witcher 3, which came out in 2015. The big draw of the last two Assassin's Creed has been exploring a particular historical setting at a fidelity we've never seen before. They both also played off mythology better than the older games in the series. I barely got to see that in Valhalla, but I know it's lying in wait in the full game. By the end of Odyssey and Origins, you were hunting down and battling the likes of the Sphinx and Cyclops and Anubis. I'll accept some open world bloat if I eventually get to throw down with Odin or tame Fenrir and ride him into battle. So here's what I'll say, guys. There's a lot of things to be excited about here with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, in my personal opinion. However, there are things to be concerned about, that being that this is just going to be more of the same. What I will say is this. They have made an effort, as far as from just the trailer perspectives, of trying to kind of show us that the assassins are certainly still a part of this. Because another reason what has kind of disconnected me, as well as a number of other fans of the franchise, out of the franchise for a period of time, is that they have kind of gone away from the Assassin's Creed. It's been more, about like the Vikings and other, and some of these other, time periods, but really no relation much so to Assassin's Creed and to the Assassins. They obviously showed us one of the Assassins in one of the first reveal trailer, I believe it was, for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and then we saw him use the hidden blade on that, massive soldier that he was fighting against. What I'm getting at, guys, is that they need to kind of, in my opinion, to really bring people into the series and kind of grow this fan base in a major way, is going to be to kind of tie things together more so. Like, does Assassin's Creed Valhalla have anything to do with Assassin's Creed Revelations or Assassin's Creed Black Flag or one of these other games earlier in the franchise? I think that those are ways that they can really bring this franchise together, and the story together as well. Because it just kind of feels now that these games are just kind of their separate, their own thing. They have nothing to do with the overarching, story of Assassin's Creed. This one, though, notwithstanding, we're going to have to wait and see. It looks like this will have something to do with the other Assassin's Creed games. I just hope that we get back to that kind of feel, guys, because this is one of my favorite franchises, and I want to see nothing but the success of it. The other thing that kind of was a bummer for me, guys, is that we didn't really see any multiplayer elements to Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and I've stated in the past that I would love to see a return of multiplayer in Assassin's Creed, as well as some co-op elements that you can play with your friends and such, because after you beat the game once or twice, the campaign that is, a lot of times you'll just move on to another game and wait for DLC to come out and things of that nature. They need to have other ways in which we can connect with this franchise after you beat the main game. But with that, guys, this is everything we know so far about Assassin's Creed Valhalla after and following Ubisoft Forward. Let me know, though, what do you guys think about Assassin's Creed Valhalla now that we're getting a little bit more in-depth? We've seen our first, segment of gameplay. What do you guys think about it? Let me know in the comment section down below. And for more Assassin's Creed Valhalla content and videos, stay here with Zero TV.